Good morning. I'm in the Boston area and woke up at 2. It's now 5:45. Couldn't get back to sleep. So I thought I'd go ahead and just air out and talk about um, the experience I had yesterday with instant agony, how I went through it, how I'm trying to still rebound from it, if that's the right word. As you may know, since surgery number 7 on my left knee 5 years ago, I've had basically a knee in a perpetual state of trauma, and um, I get sometimes over a dozen different pain sensations, sometimes dozens of times a day. Many of them are instant agony. And yesterday I was in the dentist office getting a crown on a lower tooth that cracked recently. And after the dentist injected some Novocaine, I've got the dentist on one side of me, the dental hygienist on the other side of me. I had one of the typical shots of agony. It's a flash of agony. It's gone pretty quickly. And it hurt. I jumped, they jumped, and I explained I've had 7 surgeries on my left knee, and this is going to happen if it just happens. I go through it. Let's not stop with what you're doing. And then they started taking care of a couple of things. We were having a little bit of conversation. It's rare when I get more than 1 or 2, maybe 3 shots in a row. Sometimes it does get to be instant agony. Dozens of times a day, even getting some now. Sometimes it's a dozen or on pace on the worst days, about a dozen times an hour. All of a sudden, I get another one, and it was the beginning of a storm of at least 5 or 6. Each one of them, I'm writhing in pain, screaming. They start to jump and gasp and start to verbally react every time I'm getting another blast. And it sets up a unique challenge. And I've found, as I've been writing about it since waking up in the middle of the night, that both everything I did through the course of those minutes and the rest of the day, which was immediately exhausting. I was immediately wiped out from these 5 or 6 shots of blood, of pain. And what I've done to get through those moments and how I've been processing it through the course of yesterday, writing about it and talking about it, and that resilience comes about and grows in part through conversation. So I'm going to talk about it. And if you're here, if you want to talk with me about it, I've got the chat tool on. I've got some notes. I don't know how long this will last, but I thought since I couldn't sleep, I'd go ahead and just air this out. And I'm going to refer to some notes that I've been making since I was journaling about it. But this is what life has been like for the past 5 years. I am working with a new pain management doctor who recently had me on 2 different prescriptions. I lasted on one of them for 3 days, and the other one I was able to, it's a nerve pain prescription, and I lasted on that for 10 days, but the side effects for both of them ended up taking a toll, so I had to stop. But a couple things happened. One is that when they were combined for the first few days, the pain definitely came down significantly. And I was able to go for a walk for the first time in about 4 years. I'm able to walk. I generally go through the grocery store maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks. That's about all that I can tolerate. Sometimes that is a journey of great difficulty, but at least we're on to something. The nerve damage is something that we're going to learn more about through the course of this. I'll have a nerve ablation done in August and see if killing the two main nerves going into the knee creates some goodness, and see what comes from that. But it's also, interestingly, created new types of pain, at least a couple of different kinds of pain. So now it's well over a dozen different pain sensations that I experience. And it's interesting how over the years I get these patterns that change. Sometimes a certain set of types of pain will last for a number of months, and then it alters, and there's a different set of maybe 4 or 5 different pain sensations that are more common. So it's definitely changed. Being in the dentist chair like I was yesterday and getting those blasts of pain, it was misery in a number of ways. There's the pain that I experience, and each next blast sort of knocks me down. And I don't swear, but I started swearing, and it was a panic kind of situation. Since it rarely has, I rarely have this storm of 5, 6, or 7 shots immediately in a row. I'm completely incapacitated. One of the things that's really hard about that is what it does to me. And it immediately, since I'm already mentally and emotionally exhausted, dealing with the trauma of this for a number of years now, but experiencing that kind of pain in front of other people is a unique challenge. Between their gaps, they're starting to panic. They're backing away from me, and every time I writhe in pain, they jump. And I'm trying to explain to them what's going on. I hear in their reactions, and I see in their faces. This is true whenever I have this pain in public. I see the horror and hear the horror that I'm experiencing, that I'm living. And that's another layer of pain. Have you ever been in pain in front of other people? And because of the way they react, there's a new layer, an extra layer of reaction that you experience. And how do you go through that? What I do, since I've been living this every day for 5 years, since surgery number 7, is I do 2 things. I found that if I'm intentional and very deliberate about moving through the pain, as soon as I can, just moving forward to go beyond it in both my mental reaction, my emotional reaction. That's one way to get through it. But I've got to not forget about basically caring for the part of me that's upset and exhausted from the pain experience. And so through the course of the next hour, as I was getting my dental work done, I was just working on calming myself, just to relax as much as possible. Then as I left, I found that I was utterly exhausted. And it's almost as if, and can you relate to this? That I experience moments differently in that kind of mental and emotional exhaustion. I experience time differently. I was writing about this, and it's about I experience my feelings differently. I experience my thoughts differently when I am so exhausted. And so one of the things I try to do is slow down and so to reflect on what I'm trying to say here, in as much as I am getting those shots of pain in that storm of numerous blasts, I try to move forward and to get beyond it, and then try to slow down in a way where I'm shifting my perspective to not be so much thinking about the moment, but thinking about long term, giving myself permission to say, all right, this is going to play out over the course of some hours or in this case, some days, as it often does when I have my worst days. It can usually take sometimes 2 or 3 days to really recover from it because I'm still getting more pain. So it takes a while. But making that mental shift to try to give myself permission to not have that urgency, which is so common, to need to feel better, to need to get out of the pit. Um, it's a bit of a dance mentally and emotionally. And then, so after I'm out of the dentist chair and working my way home, um, I'm very aware of how exhausted I am and really experiencing time differently. I was very low. And so I ended up coming home and trying to do a couple things work-wise to relax, but I was just giving myself, and this is one of the things I think is really key. One of the I found that it's so important to be intentional in entirely new ways to navigate excessive pain. One of the ways that I believe it's important to be in the way I navigate the pain journey better is to give myself the grace to slow down and just take care of myself. It was my birthday yesterday. All this is happening on my birthday. And at the time, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to have some downtime. But giving yourself, if you're in pain, giving yourself the grace to go ahead and just take care of yourself, what you need to do. Set everything else aside. I lied down for a little while, did a little bit of work to take care of a few things. Sometimes work is a good distraction. I went to the pool and sat there for half an hour to get some sun and just taking a lot of deep breaths. And then through the course of the day, I ended up thinking at first, I don't want to talk to anybody for the remainder of the day. And but I went ahead and I talked to a buddy of mine, told him what's going on. And he's been well aware of seeing me through these years in pain. We've known each other for over 20 years. And he knows how to be with someone in pain. That's one of the things that is important. If you're in pain, make sure you've got at least a couple of good friends who really know how to be with you when you're in pain. So we talked through it. We talked about a variety of things, and the more I was actually talking with him, the more I was able to practice my optimism and my positivity, my hopefulness. And there's something to be said for doing that, even if you don't really feel like it. It's got to be genuine, to be sure. But I ended up then feeling good after we talked for about half an hour between the distraction and just putting not a false way, but in a way rising to the occasion to perform a little bit. And the more optimism I shared with him, the more I heard that optimism and felt the reality of it, the sincerity of it, and that was lifting me up. And then I talked to him. I gave my mom a call. It was my birthday, so I talked with her and didn't tell her at all about what's going on, but ended up talking through it, the conversation, and just sounding good to her. She's 92 and just wanted to not let her know what I'm dealing with. And it was a nice conversation. Then I talked with some really dear friends that I only see maybe once a year. They're on the West Coast, and they know what I'm going through, and they're very encouraging. They offer the three things that I believe most people in pain really need, perhaps more than anything else, especially when they're hurting and when they're down. Number one is understanding. They understand, and they also provide compassion. They express it, and the more they're able to actually apply, and the same is true for each of us individually in the way we encourage ourselves or encourage someone else, the more understanding we are, and the more we bring compassion into that, that sets the stage for the most helpful, the most effective encouragement. And the more we understand somebody and care about them, the more encouraging we can be in a way that's going to be meaningful. And one of the things that I've found as I've been a trained caregiver for people who are having a difficult time in life, and for over 20 years now, I've cared for numerous people with issues from chronic pain, divorce, loss of a job, facing the end of life, tremendous loss, the kind of loss that just breaks your heart and you don't wish on anybody. And then, so in the course of being between the training and caring for others, I found that sometimes one of the best ways to encourage someone is to talk about who they are. And even if for yourself, if you're in pain and need to practice more encouraging yourself, encourage with basically messages of identity. For example, some of the things they were saying to me and yesterday were, "You're so strong. I don't know how you're doing this. You're really persevering. You've got so much strength, and your hopefulness is admirable." Those kinds of statements go a long way, especially compared to statements like, "Oh, you can do it," or things about what you might do or should do. I've had people say what I find to be very inappropriate comments. They just miss the mark and sometimes reflect more of the difficulty they're having with my pain. So give that some thought. Think about when you're encouraging somebody, encourage them in terms of who they are, not what they might do or think. And so as I was working through the day yesterday and then into last night, I was tense. There's this tension that is especially challenging with all these years of being in daily pain, is that the tension is perpetual. It's a constant because I never know what next moment, and there's this anticipation, what next moment am I going to get another blast of agony? And for the first few years after the last surgery, I was very aware of that level of constant tension. But now I'm almost, for the past year or so, I've become numb to it. I do know it's there, but I'm sort of not nearly as aware of it. So there's this on edge aspect of life. So I think that's another point that I was reflecting on yesterday, is that being in pain, you experience everything in life differently. You experience moments differently. You experience your thoughts differently. You experience emotions, your spiritual life is a different experience. And I would dare say often it's a deeper, better experience. Although there was a time when I was going through my first 3 surgeries on the knee, and I was in tremendous pain, and I was mad at God. And but these last 5 years has actually brought me closer to Him, much more so, and it's been a rich, beautiful, transformative part of my spiritual walk. But I found that being in so much pain, everything is a different experience. Relationships are experienced differently. Work is a different experience. I experience nature even a bit differently. So the idea of where my thoughts were taking me, just looking at my notes, but this is probably going to take me another day or two to process. I found, I'm going to change the lighting here. This is all very spontaneous. I don't even know if I'll save this, but it's getting brighter out. The birds started making noise around 4 a.m. I was awake at 2, and I never did get back to sleep. I was very aware of this 2 things, maybe 3 things going on, why I couldn't sleep. One, I was tense, still tense from yesterday's storm of 5 or 6 blasts of agony. Another reason is that I had not spent all of the energy, physical, at least the physical energy that I had yesterday before going to bed. I found to get a better night's sleep, especially when the pain is really rocking my life, I need to lift my weights, exercise my upper body enough so that I can spend the physical energy. Otherwise, I will wake up at typically 2 o'clock and can't get back to sleep for a while because I've got that physical energy. So, let me just look at my notes. So one thought, I think it's in the Bible that it says that in my weakness, maybe it's in one of the Psalms, in my weakness, God's strength is made perfect. I believe very much in that. I've experienced that. But I also think it's fair to say that, well, I'm not weak, I'm just exhausted. In my state of exhaustion, my resilience is made perfect. It's the practicing the 3 steps of resilience, applying the things that are in my own plan to be your best as you navigate pain approach to lay down the foundation of being able to make the most of the 3 steps of resilience, of doing that, actually taking that action. Getting some pain below the kneecap. That resilience becomes real and is made perfect in my exhaustion. So I just want to encourage you to, if you're really down and out and exhausted mentally and emotionally, spiritually, and any and every level, let's talk, because actually a lot of growth and resilience comes through conversation, talking through the pain experience, talking through the words, listening to the words and thinking about the words that you and I use during navigating the pain and trying to rebound from the tougher days or tougher moments. But resilience grows through conversation. So let's talk if you like. I'm always available. And the other part of this, and this is why I spontaneously went live today, is that if this is encouraging to you or anybody, then that lifts me up too. encouraging others is part of one of my pain management strategies. The idea of trying to strike a balance when I do a video. I want to strike a balance that lets you know that you're not alone. Try to share something about the plan to be your best as you navigate pain, the different ways of that you can transform your mental health and emotional health through the course of how you apply being resilient. And then be encouraging and show some positivity. I want to try to strike those, the balance of those, and not be too dark with the way I come across. I always want to try to be realistic about where I'm at. I probably have this day ahead of me to just take care of myself and rebound from. Here's something I'm going to do something I rarely do. Yesterday's storm of pain was so bad that ordinarily, while I would not label it, I would not assign a word to it. I'm going to. And the word I'm going to use is a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And it really hit me in a new way. It was so excessive and so intense that one of the things that I did to help out as well is I just reflected on Psalm 23. And especially that one line about having my soul restored. Just meditated on that because to a great extent, yesterday's experience really was a hit against my soul, and I needed to have it restored. And it is. Even just being able to ramble on here, sharing this has been restorative. I found reading and saying even out loud Psalm 23, it was a powerful experience and very comforting. So I'm going to sign off. I don't know if I'll even save this, but if it does anything good for you, please let me know. Maybe I'll do this more often. Maybe starting each day like this would be a healthier way to start the day than what I've been doing. But I wish you well. I want to remind you that your best is greater than the pain. And as you'll read on my website and even in the description here, that the people who plan to be their best as they navigate pain are going to be the most resilient. I wish you well, and I'm here for you in any way that I can be. Blessings.